Alright, so I tried to do a recording with the perspective through the headset, and it's entirely it's entirely too strenuous on the computer. Even when you have something as good as I do, um, it's just not industry grade. So it's not going to produce the result that I was hoping for. But I never anticipated doing the VR thing. To be completely honest with you guys. All right, so this time it's gonna look a little bit different, right? So basically, why you do that? Okay. Maybe I need to restart the headset. Actually, it's kind of jittery and shit. Yeah, I need to restart the headset. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Well, before we do that, we're gonna flip over here to the settings and to this, and we're gonna go and set this as the OpenXR source. And now we're going to reset the headset. Because it's having a little bit of a fit after trying to record that shit a minute ago. So the one thing I will say about this VR stuff so far is that it gives you a really good sense of scale and spatial awareness, right? But there is the fact that prolonged use is gonna it is fucking with my senses a little bit. Getting over the motion sickness, like the mental adjustment for the motion sickness, is something that I think is just a personal thing. Some people will overcome it faster than others, in my opinion. And then there are some people that I just don't think will be able to overcome that that disorienting feeling you get when you start using this. So right now we're gonna be doing 2D recordings. Um, I must admit that I have been watching all the other content creators when it comes to the VR stuff, right? And seeing what was working for them, what was not working for them. Mainly for me was just getting the goddamn thing working, considering my AMD handicap. But trying to record through the headset is not advisable. It's not really a good idea, and I would recommend just recording it like this, and using whatever setup is best for you with whatever peripheral that you have. So for me, since I'm using the MetaQuest 3, it's more beneficial for me to use the Meta OpenXR. And you will be able to see why here in a second. So we'll just hop into something. It's not really important. Mainly just gonna test to see if my controls ported over from when I saved them. So we'll just grab the Mark II Hornet and fuck around with that for now. Okay, so we're in the Hornet.
Aerospace. All systems
So it doesn't seem that my controls saved. So I'm gonna have to redo my controls, unfortunately. But let's take a look around the cockpit. Like now, on yours, from what you're seeing on the screen right now, it's basically, it looks just like Star Citizen, right? Like know how you would normally see it in any other stream, how you would see it in any other kind of video you watch, right? But from my perspective, it is a insanely, and I mean an insanely different experience what I'm looking at right now. Like, I can see why people want to have the full body movement in the game, right? And it's because when you get this thing on and you start, looking around, your senses and body start taking over, right? You want to put your hand on the throttle, you want to put your hand on the stick in front of you, but in reality, for me, it's like this, right? So that's the first thing, the disassociation from the way your body is in the game versus the way that you are in real life, right? And when you start flying around, it obviously gets a little bit more intense. So this, in my opinion, is way better than the eye tracking and the head tracking that we've been playing with so far, right? The Luke clip was great, and it is a great thing, but this, ladies and gentlemen, this actually takes this game to a completely different level. Like you have, and if you have the depth perception and you have the spatial awareness required in order to, utilize this properly, then you can essentially do things and stuff that no other person can when you combine it with your peripheral setup, so you can do much more finite and easier controls, and it's a lot easier to see what you're doing, and how your ship is behaving when you have the ability to look around you and you see and feel that difference. And you really feel that the TVI matters now, and I'm playing on, right now, because my controls aren't set up properly, I'm using the keyboard and the stick, right? Just like I did back in the yesteryear days. So, every time I fire on my stick, it makes me go out of control like this. So, I need to take the time to actually go through all of my controls and set all of them up again, and then of course have a key that binds, somewhere to bind on my stick to recenter my head if I need to. Comfort is everything, and I've always said that in the past. You always want to be as comfortable as possible when you're doing this, because you're going to be sitting like this for a long time. And when it comes to like the way that you scale the UI and stuff, right, it really like I said, it depends on the resolution you're playing at, and it also depends on the peripheral that you're using. And then of course, because of the way that, if you can imagine probably like a 170 to 160 cone of vision straight in front of me with some peripheral, right? Because I don't get the full 180 like I do normally in real life if I try hard enough, focus on it. But you have a more narrowed vision when you have the VR headset on, so you want to, like, the UI scaling is important for a multitude of things, mainly like when it comes to like the hollow tracker here. This forward UI on my screen needs to be adjusted so that it's a little bit more spread out or so, because it's kind of like in my peripheral when I'm dogfighting. I need to be able to glance over at that just to like more in the top right. So I need to be able to figure out how to do all that stuff. But the MFD, it really does feel like you're sitting in a fighter, and it's not as cramped or as compact in this type of perspective than it is by looking at it 2D. So yeah, like this is, and like I said, when it comes to your head tracking, when it comes to being able to look around and all that stuff, right? This just feels a lot better, right? And because like when you're moving your head around, normally without the VR headset, you're always having to like train your eyes on your computer monitor. It doesn't matter if you're using Tobii Eye Tracker or whatever, right? You're still having to make those awkward head movements in order to make it work, right? But with this, I can put my eyes wherever I want and move my head wherever I want, so I'm not locked into a perspective, which it frees up more of my ability to assess my surroundings, and I have more of an ability to see things that I normally wouldn't have seen unless I take the time to look around. See that lake right there that has that ring around it. Like, I'd never seen that before because I never took the time to look around and see it, right? And it's always because I'm always looking straight ahead of me, right? And I'm always, shooting at something. This, you have more of an opportunity to not only lose your situational, you don't lose your situational awareness by looking around with the VR headset on. So that kind of, like I said, it blows all the other head tracking out of the water, honestly, guys. Like, I'm not excited for engineering. I mean, clearly I've made that known and I've made my videos and rant about it, but when it comes to this, like, no, if there is a highlight for this patch, it's this, right? I think this has completely stolen the show from engineering because of just how game changing it is and how fundamentally broken it is. And then of course all of us have our opinions on it, but dogfighters being disabled and not being able to get blown up and having to wait for the power plant to go critical, I think that's just entirely too much. I honestly think, and I really mean this, it comes down to like, if you can kill it fast in a fighter, then engineering needs to be at the bare minimum reevaluated when it comes to these sub-capital and sub-multi-crew ships. And what I mean by sub-multi-crew is like, like I said, Constellation, Corsair, Star Runner, things in that size and nature. Even the Apollo Med Runner, for example, right? Or Medevac or whatever. There's just so many of these air quote multi-crew ships that don't need to have engineering because of how fast they die. I just think that getting out of your ship to kill a Cutlass pilot is a little bit over the top when it comes to trying to shut down PvP. And I say that because it's like they see how how player freedoms can't be controlled, and you're trying to cartel it by being so heavy-handed with these decisions. But I just don't feel that making a dogfighter sit there and get wailed on for 5 minutes until a ship explodes is fun and engaging and riveting gameplay. At that point, the ship should just explode and you should just respawn. You know, but when it comes to things big, you know, these big multi-crew ships, like, I have zero problems with engineering, and I think it's needed to balance out the fact that people are soloing these ships. I mean, hell, even I solo in Idris, right? You know, like, there needs to be some type of a modifier against solo players using these bigger ships, and engineering is that thing. But when it comes to the smaller ships, you're just making, all of you are just making yourselves look retarded by defending it. I'm sorry. So, you know, like I said, I can sit here and be objective about something, but at the same time, I can sit here and, you know, just be real about it, man. Just, this is cool, and I'm glad that CIG is finally officially supporting it. And I think engineering it on a dogfighter or a fighter or a sub multi-crew level needs to be, you know, just reevaluated. You know, if people want to be invulnerable to ship PvP, then they should be multi-crew ships. Not because, you know, they're a streamer in a fucking single ship, you know, flying around fucking Grimhex and shit, you know, being, you know, stupid, right? Yeah, like, you know, that kind of stuff, you know. And I don't care who it is, by the way. I'm just saying, like, you know, it's like, it's just poor. It's a poor decision made. If it's by design, it's a bad design choice in my opinion. If it's done just to get back at us, then fuck you, Dynafire. And that's pretty much all there is to say about it. And I'm not gonna bore you guys with doing all my controls and stuff, but I'll probably just make a separate recording of me doing it and putting it on YouTube and seeing if y'all even care with the way I have my shit set up. But I do fly HOTAS, so, you know, be warned. I don't fly like the rest of them. They do try to mimic my moves, though, which really isn't that hard, considering that using a throttle is in fact kind of a handicap. I ain't gonna lie, but I like the way I fly, so